Hi everyone! In this video, we will use quadratic equations in an application problem. Find the two consecutive positive odd numbers whose product is 575. That looks kind of confusing at first, so let's break it down a little bit. Two consecutive. Consecutive means that I have one right after the other. So consecutive would be 3 and then 4, or 14 and 15. However, it says two consecutive positive odd numbers. So that would be more like 3 and 5 or 7 and 9. They are still consecutive, but they are both odd. So not one right after the other because the next one would be even, but it's the next odd. And so that means that they are two apart, not just one number apart. This helps us set up because if I have some numbers that I don't know, we're going to use some variables to represent those. Our first coefficient, or our first number, will be just whatever we want to name it. I'm going to do n for number. Our second, we know is going to be consecutive, but it's going to be consecutive odd. That means that it will be the number and two more beyond that number. Now we do know something about these numbers. They have a product of 575. That means multiplying these two together, n times n plus 2, will give us a total of 575. And we've solved equations like this. This takes the distributive property, so we get n squared plus 2n equals 575. If we move the 575 to the left side of the equation, we get n squared plus 2n, subtract 575 from both sides, gives us minus 575 equals 0. Now we have a quadratic equation in standard form. We have a couple of different ways to solve these. The first one is to factor, and the second is to use the quadratic equation or the quadratic formula. Since 575 is kind of a large number, let's go ahead and use the quadratic formula. This is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. And our coefficients are 1 for a, 2 for b, and negative 575 for c. So let's plug those in and we get x equals negative b is 2 plus or minus the square root, using parentheses to substitute, 2 squared minus 4 times a is 1 times c is negative 575 all over 2 times 1. And now let's go ahead and simplify some of this. So we get x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 4. 4 times 1 is 4 times 575 is 2,300, and a negative times a negative is positive, so it's plus 2,300. All over 2 times 1 is 2. X equals negative 2 plus or minus 4 plus 2,300 is 2,304 all over 2. And 2,304 is a perfect square. We can put that into our calculator. We get x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of that is 48 all over 2. Now, a quick simplification here. We get x equals negative 2 plus 48 over 2, and negative 2 minus 48 over 2. Negative 2 plus 48 is 46 over 2, and negative 2 minus 48 is negative 50 over 2. Simplifying those gives us 23 and negative 25. And now let's go back to our instructions. It said two consecutive positive odd numbers. So negative 25 will not be one of our solutions. So we're going to go to the answer of 23. And this is x equals, or in our case, the variable we have is n. So this is n equals 23. So n equals 23. And then 23 plus 2 gives us the consecutive number of 25. So our two numbers, our two consecutive positive odd numbers, are 23 and 25. And now we're all done.